Happy Monday. This is your Monday morning coffee talk, and I am your host, Clarissa Diaz. I am super excited today because this day is a very special segment. We actually have some of our teammates that are coming in to talk with you guys. So I'm really excited. So I would like to introduce the first one that we have today, and that is Miss Jessie.
Hi. And here's Jessie. Jessie is from our 75th location, so that's on Naperville Boulevard and 75th Street. So, all right, Jessie, so let's just ask, I guess the first question is, why the beauty industry?
So my mom was a hairstylist, so I grew up in that environment. So she had a salon out of her basement. She worked in a Naperville salon before I was born for a little bit, but then once she had me and my sister, I have a twin sister and a younger sister, but when she had me and Maria, she decided to start working from home. She doesn't do it as much anymore, but I would say that inspired me to do hair because I grew up in it. So
does any of your sisters or anybody else do hair, or it's just you and your mom?
No, just me and my mom. So my twin sister went to beauty school, and she's on like more of the shy side. I think it would have brought her out of her shell more, but she went to school and then she decided like it wasn't for her, which I mean, I kind of could have told her that and saved her some money because she's very quiet. And when she was done with school, she was like, oh man, like I have to talk to the clients. And I was like, yeah, like you got to communicate. And she decided it wasn't for her. So it's just me and my mom that do hair.
Love it. So as a little girl growing up in the hair salon, right, going with your mom,
yeah,
what was it that just spoke to you?
I think just
being so young.
Somebody could be having a really bad day, and then you do their hair and you make them so happy, and it's the smallest little thing you can do. And like, I don't know, I see it every day when I do hair. Like if somebody seems kind of off or kind of sad or a little crabby, they leave like in a different mood.
It's the best feeling. So can I ask you a question? Do you have a specific story that you can remember off the top of your head in all the years that you've been doing hair? How many years have you been doing hair, Jessie?
I've been behind the chair at Frank Geronda for a little over 9 years.
9 years.
So if you count beauty school, it's 10 years, but.
Wow.
But yeah.
So in 9 years, do you have one specific story that you can recall off the top of your head?
Well, I had this one client. She moved away. She was really nice.
Okay.
But I liked to foil, and she would get foils. But she would always, every time, she knew how long the process would take, and every time she'd be like, are we almost done? And we'd only be like halfway through the foil. I'd be like, no, we're not. Like we're halfway through. We're almost there. Like we wouldn't do her whole head. We'd do more of a partial. And like towards when she was like going to be moving soon, she told me she was moving soon. And also, I'm terrible at telling stories, but her neighbor referred her to me. So she's like, I will say she was kind of like grumpy at first, but like I grew on her, I think. Like I think she might just have like more of a personality that's like drier, and yeah. I'm very opposite of that. Yeah. And so like I felt like she hated me for the longest time, and she'd just be like, oh, how long is this gonna take? And I'd be like, well, it's like gonna take like 45 minutes, like it always does. And like towards like when she was moving away, she was like I don't know how I'm gonna find somebody like where she was moving to. Like she's like, I don't know how I'm gonna find somebody like you. And I was like, oh, she actually likes me. Like, the whole time, like it was kind of like nothing but complaints. But like she did like her hair when she left. She always liked her hair when she left, but kind of would complain the whole time about how long it would take, which I do like to do a lot of foils, so it takes me a little bit longer. All my blonde clients know that. They're spending hours with me, but I don't know, kind of just like that.
I love that.
I thought she was nice. Like she was definitely like opposite personality of me, but we like meshed.
You guys grew together.
Yeah,
that's always the best story.
And like I have some friends like that. Like my good friend that works at 75th Page. We're so opposite. Like you could ask her, and she'd be like, yeah, like she's like the black cat, and I'm like the golden retriever. Even though I'm a cat person, like I love golden retrievers too, but you guys know I love my cats.
I know you're a cat person.
Andrea knows I love my cats because, like, don't mention, like, my cats or Taylor Swift, or else I'll keep yapping, like, in the salon. Like that, there should be a rule, but...
Did you hear that, Taylor Swift? You got a Swiftie fan right here.
Yes.
All right, hey, question. So where did you go to beauty school?
So I went to the Salon Professional Academy in
In
Shorewood. It was in
Shorewood.
Shorewood at the time, and then I think I moved to Plainfield, and now it's closed, I think.
Yeah, now
Now it's closed.
unfortunately. Yeah.
But
Okay, nice. So with the beauty industry, what do you see changing? Like trends, techniques, like what are you seeing right now going into fall, ending summer of 2024? What are you seeing, Jessie? Like what are your clients coming in? What are they saying?
So I feel like things are constantly changing, but when it gets
Yeah,
towards fall,
for sure.
people are like, oh, I want to go darker, or like they want more of like a lived-in blonde. I have some clients.
Lived in blonde, what would
Yeah.
you, what do you mean by lived
Like
in
more-
blonde? 'Cause
more
some
like
people
dem-
don't know.
Yeah, like I guess it's like it could be different to everybody. Like
Yeah.
for me, like it's more dimensional, but for some people it might just be like balayage, like, or some people they might be adding in like lowlights into their hair.
So it's transitioning more out of more into the subtle,
Yeah,
softer
softer
kind of feel.
instead of like
the vibe
blonde,
feels.
yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
Balls coming
More
out
rooted
and
look,
more-
yeah.
Gotcha.
But or there's some people who just like to stay all blonde like all
Yeah.
year round. Like
Is that you?
Yeah, that's me. Like,
I was gonna say, for all the years I've known you, Jessie, I don't ever think that I've seen you a different color.
we're only going blonder from here. Like I can't go dark. Like it's
Legally blonde. That's
yeah.
what it is.
Well, if I ever asked like Paige to make my hair dark, I told her like just take me to the hospital because there's probably something wrong with me.
So are you saying that when it comes to fashion sometimes and trends, right? Dealing with the public as we do.
Yeah.
Would you say that sometimes we have to be aware of where our clients are emotionally as well? Because sometimes that could dictate like where they are feeling with their hair, whether they want to chop it, whether they want to go dark. Would you say the same thing?
Like I have some clients that are just like me that like just love being like super super blonde. So you really have to like prepare for them for it and be like,
Yeah.
hey, this is what it's gonna look like. Are you okay with this? Or I don't know. Like I think things are always changing. So
Absolutely. That's why it makes this industry so fun.
yeah.
You know what I noticed though, when I go into 75th, you are like the blonde specialist.
Yeah.
Okay?
Love it.
No, she is, because when we go in there, she has
So always had blonde?
always has blondes, and when they call, for an appointment or anything,
I love them.
they want
I
to give
love
you
my
to the
blonde
blondes. So you're like that blonde specialist. So if anybody's looking for the blonde specialist, Jessie is it right there
Yeah. Yeah.
for that. So when you went to beauty school, obviously you got out, and I don't know if we said this right. Why did you pick Frank Dorenda?
Yeah.
So you guys were at my school, so there was a bunch of salons like coming in and talking to the students. So I think it was Tiana at the time.
Yeah,
I
okay.
talked to her, and I'm not gonna lie, I applied to Frank Dorenda because all my friends from school were applying to Frank Dorenda. So I was like, I wanna apply to Frank Dorenda because they are, and
The
all
cool
of them,
salon?
yeah, all of them ended
Awesome.
up at Route 59. I remember thinking like, oh, I'm so sad. Like I just want to be with my friends, and now it's like 59 is great, but I love my 75th people. Like you guys put me in the perfect like place.
Yeah, 75th, little close family there.
Well, and like when I first started too, I definitely was a yapper, but like I definitely wasn't like I was still more closed off. I think like in my interviews too, Jean could tell. Like Jean and Leslie both like interviewed me, and I think that they were like, okay, she'll fit well at 75th, because I think it was after my interview with Jean, I was like, oh, I don't know, like this salon might be too big and scary for me. And I remember Leslie called me, and I like was like, God, I don't know if I'm right for the salon, and like kind of like was almost trying to reject her offer into doing the interview with her, because I just was like, I don't know, this salon might be too big and scary. And she was like, no, come in, just come look at the salon, when like she could have just been like, okay, like bye, and called the next person. But I'm really glad that she like told me to come in, because if she hung up the phone, I probably wouldn't be working for Frank Dorenda. I don't know where I would have ended up, but I'm glad I ended up
Well,
here.
we are glad you're here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you guys, we've said before, we have 4 locations. The 75th and the Glen Ellen, the one we're in right now, are a little smaller. They're boutique-y, they're still busy, they still work good. And then we have the 2 big salons. So that's what Jessie's talking about. Some
Yeah.
people like the chaos of the big, and some people like it a little bit tighter. a little closer.
Yeah.
And I will say this too. I really appreciate you, Jessie, as well, because, I think that at any time we go into something, we have this pre-notion in our heads, like, hey, this is where we're going to be. This is the fit for us, right? But for you to trust us, management and obviously ownership as well, to place you best where we think that you will grow the best, means a lot to us as well, I would say too. Just because, when I'm a human. When we're stuck on something, I'm stuck on it. I want it. Don't tell me otherwise. But you know what? Sometimes you have to let go and understand that there are people who've been through this for many years, and the wisdom that they have that will place us in the right place to grow. So we appreciate that as well.
Yeah.
I have a question. So it's always interesting. So if you had to take you back in time, when you went to our class, you obviously went to Frank Drine Education.
Yeah.
And just letting the new people that come in and understand, were you nervous initially coming in?
Yeah, so nervous because I didn't know anything. I feel like you go through beauty school and you just learn the basics. Sometimes you build bad habits too.
Correct.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think my advice for them is just be open to learning. Don't go in there and be like, oh, I know everything because I went to beauty school, because you don't.
Right.
You really don't.
Right, and so over time, obviously, when you're in the class, when you graduated, you go on the floor, you're still going to be nervous a little
Oh,
bit.
yeah.
Oh, God.
And it just took you a little time, correct, or no?
Well, because, it takes you so much time. You're going to get redos.
Yep.
For me, it was leaving one side of the hair longer on one side because I was I don't want to check the haircut because then they're going to think I messed up. Just so dumb.
Yeah.
Because I think everybody favors one side, and
Correct.
there's
Yes.
always one side that's a little bit longer. Then you fix it, and it's fine, and then you don't get a redo.
Yeah.
but, yeah.
Can I ask you a question? How is it when you first get started, especially for the ones that are looking to go in the industry and they're first on the floor and you have all this nerves in general, okay, I got to do this, I got to say this, I got to do the retail, I got to do the consultation, and right? And your mind's going crazy, okay? How do you, when you have a redo or when you first started, how did you have to talk yourself out of it? Because honestly, when we have bad news, it gets to us and it gets to our ego, and we're like, am I meant for this career? Am I meant to work at the salon? So how did you get through it?
I think the help of all the stylists I work around
That's
really
awesome.
helped. Talking to them, Sue is great. All the girls are great, but just hearing their opinion, because I think Leslie would bring one of the stylists into the office, and then you guys would just talk it out,
Yeah.
which helped a lot, instead of just being you screwed up, now figure it out. If you have somebody else that's been doing hair for such a long time, or even Maria too. Maria, I've learned a lot from Maria, all of them, but just talking to somebody else about it instead of keeping it bottled up inside.
Yeah.
Right.
I think for the future people, they should think about that. If they
To
get
utilize
redos,
each other?
everybody gets redos.
Well-
Even sometimes,
love
as
that.
a stylist now, you get redos because
Oh my
sometimes
God, yeah.
you miscommunicate. It's so easy to miscommunicate. It's all lies in the consultation.
Yeah,
So.
you're
Yeah,
absolutely right.
Everything's the
Yeah.
consultation.
And then also it's so different when you go on the floor because you're in class and you have mannequins and you have your models, which are sometimes your friends. So it's so different when it's a stranger. They're gonna tell you if they don't like something. And also too, when you're working on a mannequin, they're not gonna say I hate this haircut.
Yeah, and their hair is very different. Let's be honest.
Nothing. Yeah, exactly.
It's not the same
Exactly.
diameter, thickness, doesn't lift the same. It's not the same.
No, and nothing prepares you for the real world,
Yeah.
going on the salon floor. So.
I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. And I love the fact that you went back to, and you give a lot of credit to your teammates as well, because I do think that, sometimes we can get stuck in our own worlds and our own heads and just think that we know it all. So for you to just continue to be open, and after 9 years and still be open with your teammate really
Yeah.
says a lot about you guys as well, and yourself.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, that's I think a great thing, because you guys could all ask for help, right? It's not like if you guys had a question, if you had something, hey, I have this client, she has some box dye, we got to fix it, you could always go to somebody else and ask.
Yeah.
So that's always, I think, you guys are great communication.
It's
in
good
the
to put
salon
two
there.
heads together.
Yeah.
Well, and I love that we're talking about that too, because I will say, the creativeness of our industry and what you do. Tell us a little bit about that. Do you what inspires you when you're doing hair Does that make sense, Jessie,
Yeah.
or no? Like, when you see someone, is it the fact, like, I know, like, as a hairstylist, I can say, when I see someone, when I see a man or a woman, right, and I'm like, okay, if I had the chance or the opportunity to change you, this is what I would think in my head, do A, B, C, D, E, right?
Yeah,
Like, so
yeah.
that creative process, like, do you get that feeling when a client comes in and you're like, hey, this is what I think that you need to
You
do?
need to be blonde.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I feel like all
Blonde
of my
and
clients
bold,
are blonde. I'm
damn
like,
it.
blonde. Like, it's funny because some of my blonde clients, they didn't start off like coming to me blonde. Like, some of them were just haircuts, and then they're like, oh, I think I want to go a little lighter. And it's
And you
like,
just started
it
going.
starts off very subtle, and then it's just
Yeah.
real intense,
They
and they're
get it.
just blonde before you know it. And then they're coming to see me like every 8 to 12 weeks, I would say.
Love it.
Because I have some that are on the 8-week mark, and then some that are like 12, and they're just like, okay.
So the creative process, so you do, like, obviously.
I love making people blonde. I love doing other colors too, of course. Like,
Correct.
but yeah.
I love it.
So if you had to pick coloring or cutting,
Coloring.
Okay,
Because,
is it?
like, I mean, you can do a lot with haircuts, but some of my clients are like, oh, I just want like a little trim. But with the blondes, like, I don't know, when you have like a good amount of outgrowth, like even like this much, they look so much brighter and they're so happy. And I know that feeling because I like being blonde.
gotcha. This is an interesting question. So have you had clients that come in and say Khloe Kardashian or Kim Kardashian, and they want to be that in one service?
Yeah.
Okay, that does happen. And how do you explain that to them? How do you educate them
Yeah.
and say, hey, this isn't going to happen?
Good question.
Like,
Yeah.
And it's for the new hair.
Pretend we're a client. Like,
Well-
what would you say? Yeah.
And it's for like the new hairdressers because,
Yeah.
It's scary to say
you want
no.
to say yes, but you're like, reality is like, this is not going to happen in one day.
Unachievable.
It's like
right
you
now.
want to be a people pleaser, but that's just not possible unless you're going to have me work on you for like 12 hours. Like, it's just not going to
Right.
And
happen.
pay
And
the
I wouldn't offer that because I just wouldn't recommend like having them
Damage.
go through all that. Just would not be worth it. But I think it's in the consultation, you have to say, hey, this is not realistic. And that could be a wig too. Like also, like that could be a really nice wig. So it's all about like just saying like, hey, this is what we're gonna do today. This is what we have the time for. And Andrea came up with this great little sheet too that we write out like everything, the expectations we have, like me sign it, the client sign it, because then it's just written.
Love it.
Like I don't know, like.
So they understand where it's going and what's
and there's
the
always
timing and all that.
there's always going to be a person that's like, well, this stylist did it for me
Yeah.
in this sitting. I'm like, well, I'm not that stylist. I'm trying to keep your hair on your head because,
Yeah.
I mean, you can be that blonde, but it's going to be on the floor. So,
I will say too, I think that's like the best part, like especially being able to work at most of the salons of the locations. Like what I've always noticed in all the years of doing hair is I feel like Frank Gianna is known for the simple fact of saying like, yes, I know you want that, but unfortunately, the integrity of your hair is a lot more valuable to you, to us, than to get to that project, to that end result. Eventually, you will get to that end result, but we're gonna do it in steps. We're gonna make sure your hair is taken care of. We're gonna do the right, techniques to get there. We're gonna give you the right tools, the aftermath, the retail of it, to how to care for it, how to take care of it. So, I mean, I do really think that that's great that you're like that too, though, because
Yeah.
a lot of places might be like, yeah, let's do it,
Yeah.
and then there's a chemical reaction. I don't know if anyone knows what a chemical reaction is, but a chemical reaction is a haircut
Yeah.
where your hair just breaks off. Like you
Yeah.
didn't want that, but now you have that because you wanted that look that someone didn't educate you well enough to know. So
Well,
that's awesome.
and sometimes they're just so desperate to have that look that
Yeah.
they're like, I don't care if it's damaged because there's like a question.
Yeah.
There's a question on the sheet that says like, do you care about the integrity of your hair? And I can't tell you how many clients I've had put, no, I don't care about that. I'm like, do you know what you're answering to? Like,
But
do you
most
even know?
people don't. Most
do you
people
not know what
don't.
integrity means?
Yeah.
Like,
That's right.
Yeah.
but yeah, I feel like most of my clients, though, when I do break it down and explain it to them, they're like, okay, that makes sense. Like most of them aren't wanting me to fry off their hair, but it's like, I don't know, if somebody's like, okay, well, I want this, and then I'm like, well, I can't do it, then it's like, then okay, go to another salon because I'm not being responsible for frying off your hair.
Because
they might agree to it, and then you do it, and then they're gonna go tell all their friends and be like, Jessie fried off my hair, like,
or
it's
yelp,
not worth
and
it.
that is like it's not worth it when it's like, wait, because I told you that it wasn't going to happen, but now you just yelped, and my name that I've worked so hard for is now smeared all over the internet.
Right, because they pushed you to do.
Yeah, that's why it's like.
That's the story behind the scenes that I think a lot of people, not that it's right or it's wrong, that they don't know about, because we live in a world where, hey, when we're feeling something, we can just say it or we can just type it, and without actually, there's always two sides of the story. There's your side, his side, and the truth.
Right. And you know what's like, when you turn somebody down like that, sometimes you have to, because of integrity in that. But I remember when I was doing hair, I would be in a grocery store, and I'm like, I see my client, I'm like, oh my God. And I'm looking at her hair, and it does.
What does that look like?
I mean, and it looks good, and you're like, okay, thank God I didn't do that 20 process on her, because I want it to look good when I see her. You know, so
or like
sort of
if you
funny.
see them now, it's like if you see them, if you have them Instagram, you're like zooming in on the making sure like
you know, that's what we do when we see you guys walking around town or we see you on social media. You better believe not only are we zooming in, but we're like, does that shape still look good? Does that color look good? How does the flow look? Like, we really take our jobs very seriously. So I like love that all of us can agree to that.
Yes.
Now I will say, I want to get down to a little bit of the seriousness in the sense of when it comes to when you look at yourself from, you know, year 1 to year 9, and, you know, the growth that you made as a stylist for yourself, as a woman for yourself, as a business behind the chair, you know, what would you say were the tools that maybe you and also Frank Geronda help, you know, grow with that too? What would you kind of tell the viewers a little bit, like, because I know we do coaching, so I don't know.
Yeah. Well, Andrea's helped me a lot. Having her as my manager has helped a lot. Like, we always talk about how when I, like, obviously she hasn't been there since the beginning because Leslie was my manager first, but just like in comparison, like me when I started versus me now is the confidence. Like, confidence helps a lot, but you don't get that right away. Because even when I first started, I remember having like blonde clients. I was not just like good at doing blonde. Not that I think I'm like really good or anything, but it's like what I like to do. But just having redos helped a lot because you learn from that.
Love that.
Like you learn like whatever it is that you were doing wrong, like not checking your haircut, or like as far as like color, just consultation. Like if you don't have a good consultation, you're like the outcome, like your color could be beautiful, but it's probably not what the client wants.
And it's always about what the client wants.
Right.
But I think it's just, it's learning stuff like that, like learning what to do with the consultation, and also too, you're always learning. Like if you think you're done learning, then it's kind of sad because then you're never gonna grow, and you're just gonna like, you're gonna be that stylist that thinks like, oh, this is the only way you can do hair. And then you give clients this trauma. They're like, this stylist gave me this ugly hair and said, this is what I want.
So with that being said, because you're always growing, would you say that the classes that the company does give to your team and yourself, would you say that you're like, do you enjoy that? I mean, how many classes? I mean, what do we typically usually do
we do about 5 to 6 classes
a year?
Yeah, the classes are great because it's also really expensive to get education, so I appreciate it so much. I feel lucky to be in a salon that offers classes because I know that's not everywhere, and it makes me happy that you guys care so much about educating us too.
But we want you guys to grow. I mean, you know, the main goal is, you know, you guys are happy, everybody's happy, we're happy, the clients are happy. I mean, that's the whole point of this. You know, and that's why we love the industry.
Because it's always changing too, so you have to stay up to date on everything.
Right, the highlights change, foils, different stuff. Like, at first was foils, then it went to bowel.
I know.
I mean, you know.
If you're my clients, it's still foils. very, very tiny, like a million of foils, like teeny tiny partings.
So, why don't you tell us a little bit about the hours you work at 75th? Just so, you know, people...
what does your schedule look like as
so
a full-time... Are you a full-time stylist?
I'm
think
full-time.
you are.
Yep.
Okay, so what does a full-time schedule at Frank Geronda look like
for
the viewers?
I have some nights, which is nice because some of my clients can't get in until like after 5 o'clock. So Mondays I work 1 to 9, and then Tuesdays I'm off, and then Wednesdays I'm on a little bit of a longer shift. I chose to do that to myself. It's 9:30 to 9.
Okay.
And so that's nice too, because I'm there in the morning, because for a while I was doing 1 to 9 on Wednesdays, and people would always be like, oh, do you have a Wednesday morning? I'd be like, no. And like when things changed with COVID too, we were on 4 days. And so when we were kind of going back to normal, going back to our full-time schedules, I was like, well, like some of the stylists at my salon, they work 4 days and they just work some longer days. And I was like, well, what if I just like add a few hours to Wednesday to make myself full-time, like work smarter, not harder.
Yep.
And so Wednesdays I'm there like all day. I have no life on Wednesdays. It's just all hair. And then I'm off Thursdays, back again on Friday for 9 to 5. I'm a
Nice.
morning person, so I love mornings, so I'm always happy to go Friday. Not that I'm not happy to go all the other days of the week. And then I'm there on Saturdays, 8 to 4.
It's a nice schedule.
Yeah,
then.
it's nice because I get off pretty early too on Saturdays.
Yeah, and then
like
you have
4.
3 days off
Yeah.
as well. That's great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Jessie, I really, really do appreciate you coming in and sitting down with us and having a conversation, just letting the viewers know a little bit more insight of yourself, most importantly, and then obviously, you know, the salon too and your team. So you guys stay tuned. We have somebody else coming up that we would love to introduce you as well to our team. But as for now, we want to say thank you to Miss Beautiful Blonde Jessie.
Of course.
Yes.